Can you believe that 4 interesting movies dropped off this week? Yeah, 4 movies that I was kind of having an eye into it. Just dropped off in this and only this week. But of course, I have I don't go to all of them, so I had to choose one of them. That's very curious about me. I also want to tell you that I wasn't interested in Transformers. This is why I didn't want to watch it in order to make a vlog last week. So there, I haven't watched them. I haven't watched a Transformers movie ever since the Michael Bay films. So there. But this week, 4 movies that caught my eye. I mean, we had The Flash, Asteroid City, Elemental, and The Blackening. It doesn't matter if they're good or bad. Sorry for the siren, just in case. It doesn't matter if they're good or bad or something like that. They just caught my interest. But like I said, I don't have myself. I don't have to myself to watch all of them. I sometimes try to pinpoint the bad ones sometimes, because sometimes, watching bad movies, they're kind of comes as fun. And even though I haven't got a lot of them this year. So I decided this week to watch The Flash because that was the most hype of them all. Man, that the hype was very big on this one, and they really overhyped it. Sorry, I repeated myself because how can I explain it? And they always begin to say that this is the movie that's gonna change everything. This is the kind of like the last movie that we're gonna get before it changes directions in the eyes of James Gunn. But still, I try to be a wise guy and not get myself tangled by the usual traps that this movie had. Like, for example, the trailers, they gave you all this nostalgia bait by saying that, hey, look, we got Michael Keaton reprising as Batman. I like the Batman movies, but man, that they tried so hard to click us the nostalgia bait. But at the end of the day, it was still a Flash movie, and you know me, I wasn't exactly caring about the Flash. I thought that the Flash was the kind of like one of the worst parts of the Justice League movies. Whether it is the Josh Whedon version or the Zack Snyder version, I hated the Flash. I thought that Ezra Miller was a poor choice. But maybe I shouldn't have to blame the actor when it was more the how can I say the direction that they gave him, or the lines that he has to say and all that stuff. But speaking of blame, how can I? It also didn't help that Ezra Miller wasn't doing very good for himself. He had this bad publicity in which he had the. Sorry, I don't know why my voice is a little bit cranky here. I'm not sick. It's just that I don't know what it is. But anyway, Ezra Miller, he was doing some bad stunts that it put him into legal problems. And with Warner Brothers technically defending him, it wasn't a good publicity in which we as spectators, we were just questioning why Warner Brothers was willingly to defend a criminal, even though there's a lot of evidence that they do wrong. Ever hurt? So man, these are the biggest. This was really getting hype, but still, I wasn't buying it. I just say that, okay, maybe the movie's gonna be good, it's gonna be bad, but these things are not helping. These things are not helping. I don't fall very easily on nostalgia most of the time. Because every time when I see people just being attractive just because it's the sake of nostalgia, I just say, you guys are so easy to be manipulated by the media. So either way, I was technically dreading this movie. I went there. I decided to be my pick of the week for this one. And guess what? It wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. Quite the contrary. It was actually kind of good. Actually, it was. I did enjoy myself, even though it has some problems. So it is a flawed movie that they gave it all. Although there are some rough corners that you might notice, and the nostalgia factor is there, and you can tell that it was technically the biggest selling point that they were trying to do. But they didn't have so much faith on that movie that they have some good factors other than the nostalgia. So and I just came out respecting this movie more than that it should be. So there are some corners that I still criticize, but I will get to there when we get there, because it's still an Ezra Miller Flash movie. I still not exactly a fan of Ezra Miller, especially the things that he's done, but maybe this movie kind of helped me out doing the usual model of separating the art from the artist. Will that help? Kinda. It kinda worked for me in the Super Mario Brothers movie, even though I still despise Jack Black and still is one of the worst parts of that Super Mario Brothers movie, but that's just me. So anyway, where do I start? Well, the story. We got, Barry Allen being the Flash, and he is having some personal disrupt because his father is on trial because he's been accused of killing his wife, even though he didn't do it, and a lot of the evidence and his alibis are not helping. So while in his fit of sadness, he finds out that if he runs he runs fast at the speed of sound, he can time travel, and despite the warnings of Bruce Wayne, played by Ben Affleck, saying that you must not tamper with time, he decides to tamper in time to prevent the murder of his mother. And the funny thing is that all these moments, the cause of all these chains of events, it's all been done because of a can of crushed tomatoes. But yeah, he decides to change that. I'm not gonna go exactly into details. And then he creates a timeline in which he lands on where his mother is still alive, his father is not in jail, but his other self is still there, and he also lands in a world where the other superheroes doesn't exist. Wonder Woman doesn't exist. Superman doesn't exist. Cyborg doesn't exist. Aquaman doesn't exist. there is a Batman, but it's not the Batman that he knows, which I'll get to. And and the Barry and the Barry that he knows, he doesn't have the superpowers. And to make things worse, General Zod is still alive, the villain from Man of Steel. And he's about to, to activate his doomsday device to kill off millions of people. So Barry now has to find a way, to try to stop Zod, but at the same time find a way to return to his own timeline, because he finds out that because altering the effects of the time, he created another timeline, another branch where another possibility happened. So basically, that's the short version that I could think of about it. And it's interesting. This is another one of those movies in which it handles the multiverse and with different timelines, which is now kind of becoming a fad on all these movies. And you know what? Many people call it lazy, but I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with, making stories that they have kind of like a different timeline or different ways that, for example, what if this happened or what if it's done? And sometimes you can do it very well and sometimes not. I know that Marvel is the one that made it more not I wouldn't say popular, I would say mainstream, I'll say. And the DC universe in comics is no stranger to the multiverse. And that I know, even though I'm not exactly an avid reader of the DC comics, but you can tell that they are aware about different realities, different timelines, and so on. I mean, look at Injustice and the comic where Superboy Prime punches out reality. So that aspect of the stories, I don't have a problem. And this one handled it kind of like very well, even though a lot of the catastrophe of timelines, they kind of tackle, slowly, and then it turns out into saying that let's form a group in order to stop General Zod, and then it retakes the consequences of altering the time in order to change the past and all that, and it shows these kind of consequences. And okay, now we're gonna go with the acting. I kind of hate to admit it. But this time, Ezra Miller does a better job as Barry Allen compared to what they did to the Justice League movies. That kind of proves that when you have a better director, a better writer, you can make the character sound better. Because at this time I bought him better, and he acted better compared to all these movies. He wasn't, the witty wisecracker. Well, sometimes he did, but the jokes were better. The jokes were better. He wasn't exactly, the witty, unlikable guy from the last one, and so on. Well, maybe a little bit, because Ezra Miller, we gotta give him credit because he had to play double the roles of the Barry Allen that we know, and the younger version in which he tries to teach him, how to use, the powers, but he's still kind of like a novice, but still a quick learner of all the skills that he didn't do. So trust me on this one, that it takes a dedication for an actor to play two roles in the same movie, and because acting is not exactly you know, easy job, especially when you take double roles. And in this case, let's say that playing double roles, it comes off both as a an achievement, but at the same time, for all the visual artists, it's kind of a nightmare because you have to play out the camera one way or another to kind of show one version of the character and the other version of another. And sometimes when you have the two of them at the same time in the same shot, they are sometimes they want the visual effects. They try to make it very realistic, but unfortunately, it comes off a little bit kind of like an uncanny valley territory. So, so it kind of looks fake. It doesn't matter how much you try with the visual effects; it's still gonna look fake. They try, although I think worse visual effects, but they kind of do on this one. Also, there is one pet peeve that kind of annoys me, but luckily they didn't hold to it because the younger version of Barry, he has this laugh that go like, ah! It kind of sounds like Jim Carrey when he's gargling, like, I still can't get over my head at this laugh that he has. But still, Ezra Miller did again. His acting was better compared to the Justice League movies, and I also like that they gave him kind of like a very emotional arc, I'll say, in which he has kind of like missing his mother and he tries to save her, and you buy the relationship because the movie gave itself time to showcase his relationship with her, that they really love each other. They lost her by a tragedy that it imploded, another tragedy, and he really missed her. So basically, this kind of comes out as very emotional. And the movie, that kind of comes with the theme of the movie, that sometimes tragedies is what builds us as people. Which is also technically something that it is on the character trait of Batman. And speaking of Batman, yeah, we got what was it again? Oh my God, yeah, Ben Affleck. We got Ben Affleck as Batman for a while, but then when the timeline had been swapping and everything. Then we got, of course, Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton playing as Batman. He is not exactly a Tim Burton Batman, but it is technically a timeline that he is. And you know what? He did fine. Honestly, I will say that as a fan of Batman, this is probably kind of like the best moment of the movie. Even though I know that they use his action scenes were a combination between CGI and stunt doubles. Because I don't think that Michael Keaton I think Michael Keaton is very old for, to do all these stunts. He's not exactly Tom Cruise. But he did fine. He did fine. And if you're easily manipulated, saying that there's Michael Keaton and I love Michael Keaton, he's the best Batman in the world, be my guest. Be my guest. Still, I will think that you're easily manipulated, but still be my guest. And the other character that they marketed really high, is Supergirl. Supergirl's in the movie, but she doesn't appear too much. But she does leave out as an impact. And what was the name of the character? The actress Sasha Calle. She does a great job. I think I did bought her as Supergirl, a more angsty Supergirl, I might add. But I did bought her. I did like her performances, even though some of her CGI scenes are kind of like not noticeable. And of course, we got Michael Shannon as General Zod back again, because he's basically the kind of like the antagonist of this movie. Not the real antagonist, but it's the antagonist. And so basically, this is all I have to say about the acting. And I did kind of mention that some of the CGI are kind of like questionable, even though it's very ambitious. I can just say that a lot of the visual artists were very ambitious on this one, whether it being the lightning effects or the time traveling effects or trying to make double the Barry Allens is sometimes, again, it's questionable, but this is kind of like the crux of visual artists. And I don't want to go very hard on that one, because that it's not exactly, it's very hard to do. It's very hard and very time consuming, and they work their asses on creating those effects. Although I do have to complain almost by the end, and how they wanted to push off the effects, especially to creating something that I'm not going to exactly reveal, but it happened during the climax, in which we see kind of certain cameos that they decided to use the kind of like the Star Wars technique of bringing people back from the dead, or making them, very young. And I still don't understand why they keep doing that. And again, they do it mostly for fan service. This movie has its own moments of fan service, which it is a delight, but sometimes it gets a little bit, in your nose. And again, this kind of pushes the limit of visual effects and trying to make it, very realistic. And personally, I'm a fan of not making things too realistic, because realism, well, it's impressive that you do it. Sometimes it can be a little bit boring. That's technically my own opinion about it. Sometimes realism is a little bit boring. This is why I kind of prefer stylistic cartoons, even in CGI, because they kind of feel bouncy and they give out a lot of life. So this is why I'm not exactly an expert on watching live action movies with big visual effects. There are some moments in which I do. Of course, there are some moments that I do kind of like applaud. But that's technically one of the few niches that I have to say. And as for other moments, I think that I did enjoy a lot, kind of like the action scenes, and it is consistent. I didn't find it myself bored, despite that this is an hour long, a 2-hour, 24-hour long movie, but if you become interested in the movie, you'll find out that it goes by kind of like exaggerate well. I will have to say that maybe the kind of like the half part of the movie is when things get a little bit that they drag a little bit. There is enough of some of the humor that they try to do, in which, again, they're kind of hit or miss, but you have to go through with it. I've been hearing people again complaining about the younger Barry Allen, in which he could be a little bit kind of like obnoxious, and he kind of is, and of course it affects on some of the aspects of the movie. But still, like I said, I will not get over it. He sounds like a horse. Or maybe it's because I don't know what is happening to my voice. my voice is acting a little bit. Again, I'm not sick. Something is wrong with my throat somehow. I'll have a drink of water later after this. But again, I'm not gonna exactly say the exact thing, but it's kind of incredible that all these things, all of the events of the moment, is always because of a can of crushed tomatoes. That's the only thing that I will say that, man, those time traveling things, they're really, how can I say, very sensitive. It's basically the butterfly effect. They never mentioned the butterfly effect, but they kind of gave you an analogy with spaghetti. And by the way, yes, this movie's gonna make you crave for spaghetti because, man, that these spaghetti look good. But in the meantime, I think that's all I have to say with my own complaints. That despite my own, how can I say, my own gripe with Ezra Miller, I think this movie made him a little bit better in comparison to Justice League. And well, the movie kind of ends on a note that, I don't know if it's kind of funny, but at the same time, it spearheads the changes that it's gonna probably have on the new DC movies. So yeah, this was The Flash, the last movie that they're gonna. Oh, I almost forgot. Here's another pet peeve that I almost roll my eyes out, or actually this is the thing that rolls my eyes out, is that you can tell that the movie still is in love with the Snyderverse, because the main plot, it involves the events of the, how can I say, what was it, Man of Steel, and I don't like Man of Steel as much as I don't like Batman versus Superman. And these movies are shit, and I'm not a fan that they are using these movies as kind of like the beginnings. Remember that I always say that I kind of prefer to have this movie reset and call it a day, because I think that the Snyderverse, it wasn't a good start for the DC cinematic universe. Well, but apparently I'm now beginning to cope. I think that it's a little bit too. It's a little bit too late for that, and now I have to face the consequences. And now we're gonna jump out of the Snyderverse, and now we're gonna go with the James Gunn verse. That's how the movie ends, by the way. Although it kind of came out like a giggle on the last cameo. Yeah, the last cameo, I'm not gonna say who it is here, but it gave me a little bit of a giggle. That's technically what I'm gonna say. So, do I recommend The Flash? Well, if you like the other movies, yeah, probably I could give it kind of like a mild recommendation. It could happen worse. Again, I kind of recommend you if you manage to separate the art from the artist, considering Ezra Miller's stunts that he did, well, that's technically what you get. But in the meantime, I don't know. Grab your crushed tomatoes and be careful with crossing the crushing tomatoes timeline.